He's looking to push the ball down the field. Here's Myles Garrett after the game talking about the 52-yard bomb that that had Myles looking shocked on the sideline.
I mean, he put it up, and I'm just like, oh, God, who is that even going to? And I wasn't even looking. I'm like, oh, God, please. And he drops it in the bucket, and I'm just like, wow, there's not many guys in the league that can make that throw.
Basically, when he hit that seam, Ocho,
yeah, it was a wrap.
I saw him on one knee throw the ball 60 yards and hit the upright, making it look easy.
And making it look really easy, especially if you watch it from TV, like, well, goddamn.
Imagine when I get an off season. Imagine when they call plays specifically for me.
No one saw this coming in the Cleveland drama. And I need you to pay very close attention to what just happened, because this is one of those times when what is said is just as important as what is not said. Shedeur Sanders stood in front of the press and defended Kevin Stefanski against claims that his head coach has been working against him all season. He said good things about Stefanski's coaching. He talked about how their relationship was getting better. He said he's glad to be in Cleveland. It seems like Shadur is putting an end to all the drama and telling everyone to relax. But if you really pay attention to what he's saying, how he's moving, and the situation he's responding to, you might start to see that this press conference may have shown more about how things are wrong in Cleveland than it tried to hide. Let me set the scene for you, because the question that started all of this was very loaded. A reporter walks up to Shedeur Sanders and says, "All of you supporters say that Kevin Stefanski was working against you.
Your own assessment told you like Dylan Gabriel more, you started Dylan Gabriel more. That's not me saying that you're undermining or you're cutting down Shedeur Sanders. That's me saying you stink at evaluating. That's me saying you're not good at the evaluating quarterback process if you genuinely thought that Dylan Gabriel throwing the ball 5 yards a throw was going to be better for the team and was going to provide better results than what Shedeur Sanders can do. That's where I have a problem."
That question isn't an easy one. That's a reporter throwing a grenade into the press conference and watching how the new quarterback deals with it. Shedeur's first reaction tells you everything you need to know about how aware he is of the story about him and his coach. He responds with, "So, you just want to start trouble, huh?" Someone who doesn't know about the tension wouldn't respond like that. That's what someone who knows exactly what's going on in the news and on social media would say. They would also know that there is a perception problem between him and his coach, and that talking about it in public would only make things worse. But here's the interesting part. After that first deflection, Shedeur didn't just ignore the question and move on. He really did talk about it, and the way he talked about it is very telling. He begins by saying, "I can't really control what people do outside the building. I can't do it. Look at what he's doing here. He's pulling away from his supporters who are criticizing Stefanski, but he's not denying what they say. He isn't saying that Kevin Stefanski has never tried to hurt me, that the accusations are completely false, or that my supporters are wrong. He says he can't stop other people from talking. That's a whole other thing. It's the kind of carefully worded answer that lets him keep his relationship with his coach without completely throwing his fans under the bus or denying that their worries might be true." After that, he adds this line, which is very important. "You act like I go out there and tell them to do whatever they want. That's not something I can change or do anything about." Once more, pay attention to what he isn't saying. He isn't saying that his supporters are lying or seeing things that aren't there. He says he's not telling them to say these things, which means they're saying them on their own, based on what they see. Shadur is basically saying that there are people, including his own fans and supporters, who think Stefanski is trying to hurt him, but he's making it clear that he didn't come up with those ideas. A 22-year-old kid who has only been in the NFL for a few months is teaching us how to play politics. After making sure he was far away from the controversy, Shadur then turns to the required praise for his coach. "I'm just glad to be here. Since I got here, Coach Stefanski has been in charge, and he's done a great job with everything." Let's be honest for a moment. What else could Shadur say in this case? He's a first-year quarterback who is finally getting a chance to start. This week, his head coach named him the starter for the game against the San Francisco 49ers. Shadur doesn't need to add more drama by saying that his coach has been sabotaging him and making his life hard. That would kill your career. So, he does what any smart player in his position would do. He says the right things, compliments his coach, and tries to get over the controversy. But this is what you need to know. People think that Stefanski has been holding Shadur back, which is why this question was even asked. This isn't just crazy people on the edge of social media making crazy claims. A credentialed reporter at an official Browns press conference felt comfortable bringing this up, which shows how mainstream it is. That means there's smoke here, and where there's smoke, there is usually some fire.
I really think the two biggest days for Shedeur were Wednesday and Thursday. Getting into practice, he's done it. He's worked with Tommy Reese. He's worked with the center, right? What are we correcting this week? What's going better?
Yeah.
How am I more comfortable in the huddle? What do I know is coming at me that we need to work on? And he went out there and he played fine. He was not great, but he was more than good enough. He limited bad plays. He made a couple big plays. Like, this is all about little details and going forward because he's got a chance. And for all the crazy talk, and there's a lot of it, it is not crazy to say this kid represents hope.
Yes, he does.
And some of that is the low bar.
Yeah.
A lot of that is the state of the franchise. But he represents hope. And even the craziest people could say, little at a time. And to me, the practice field and just little football details will help him so much. And experience, no matter how Sunday goes, will help him so much. Because the other guys didn't represent hope.
That's
but this guy does.
true. I felt no hope with Dillon Gabriel.
The question is whether Shedeur's public defense of Stefanski really settles this issue, or if it just hides a problem that will come back the first time things go wrong. Shedeur's description of his relationship with Stefanski is interesting. He says it's definitely like a coach relationship, with Stefanski telling him what to do on and off the field. That's about as general as you can get when talking about the relationship between a coach and a player. It's not hot, it's not awesome. He's not saying that Stefanski has always believed in him, been his biggest supporter, or done everything she can to help him succeed. He's talking about a simple, functional relationship where the coach tells the player what to do and the player does it. That's okay, but that's not what you usually hear from first-year quarterbacks who get along well with their coaches. Shedeur then says, "We've definitely grown. I'm just happy to be here because our relationship and everything else has gotten better." The most important word there is grown. When you say a relationship has grown, you mean that it wasn't always good, that things could be better, that things have improved since they first started. You don't usually talk about how relationships get better when they were good from the start. You say that they have grown since Rocky and that they have gotten better over time. So in a very polite way, Shedeur is saying that his relationship with Stefanski wasn't perfect at first, but it has gotten better. When you think about it, that's a pretty big admission, even though it's said in a good way. Now, let's talk about the situation that makes all of this so hard to understand. Shedeur Sanders just became the first rookie quarterback for the Browns to win his first game since 1999. That's a huge achievement for a team that has been a graveyard for young quarterbacks. He played well against the Raiders, throwing for 209 yards and a touchdown on 11 of 20 passes. He also threw an interception. He had a strong arm, was calm under pressure, and could make plays inside and outside the pocket. He only got sacked once the whole game, which is a great sign of how well he knows how to protect the ball as a rookie. By any reasonable standard, his first game was a success, and his coaches should have supported him without question from then on. But that's not what happened. Kevin Stefanski's comments after the game were not very good. He didn't give Shedeur a game ball, even though Shedeur's accomplishment was historic. Instead, he only gave one to Myles Garrett. The next day, at a press conference, he used a lot of hedging and careful language when talking about how to judge things week to week. He couldn't even say Shedeur's name when someone asked him directly about him. All of this made it seem like Stefanski didn't fully agree with Shedeur as the franchise quarterback. And that idea spread quickly through the media and social media. Many of Shedeur's fans, who have been following him since his time at Jackson State in Colorado, saw all of this. They saw how Shedeur was buried on the depth chart at first. They saw that he was running the scout team instead of getting real practice with the first team. They saw how Stefanski always backed Dillon Gabriel, even when the offense wasn't going anywhere. Even though Shedeur has to prove himself every week. Even when he wins, they saw the game ball controversy. They saw that Stefanski didn't fully support Shedeur in public. And they came to the same conclusion that a lot of people would have come to. Kevin Stefanski doesn't believe in Shedeur Sanders and has been working against him in some way. It doesn't matter if you call it sabotage or just a coach not wanting to fully support a quarterback he didn't really want. The result is the same. Instead of stability, support, and confidence, A young quarterback gets hedging, lukewarm praise, and constant evaluation from his coaches. That's not a good place for quarterbacks to be, especially for rookies who are still learning how to play in the NFL. So when Shedur's fans started saying this, they weren't just making things up. They were reacting to things they could see, like how Stefanski has treated Shadur differently than other quarterbacks. Shadur had to talk about this at the press conference, and I think he did a great job, considering how hard it was for him. He couldn't confirm the claims of sabotage because that would ruin his relationship with his coach, and maybe even his job in Cleveland. But he couldn't completely throw his supporters under the bus and call them liars, because a lot of them have been with him through thick and thin, and he knows they want him to succeed. So he put the thread through the needle. He didn't deny the claims, but he did distance himself from them. He complimented his coach without going overboard. He said that his relationship with Stefanski had grown, which means that it needed to grow in the first place. It was a masterclass in saying all the right things without actually promising anything that could be used against him later. The timing of all this is also important. Stefanski had already named Shadur the starter for the next game against San Francisco when this press conference happened, even though Dillon Gabriel was cleared from concussion protocol and could play. That choice was very important because it meant that Stefanski could no longer use Gabriel's health as an excuse to avoid committing to Shadur. He had to pick one, and he picked Shadur. But Stefanski's comments about that choice were not clear-cut and left room for doubt. He didn't say that Shadur will be our quarterback in the future. He said that Shadur will start this week, and they will see how it goes from there. Even after Shadur showed he can win at this level, Stefanski still thinks it's a week-to-week idea. So, when Shadur is asked about accusations of sabotage in this situation, he's in a tough spot. He should be happy that he was just named the starter again. On the other hand, his coach still won't fully support him in public, which must be frustrating. He can't say anything bad about it without seeming ungrateful or making things worse. But he also knows that the people who support him aren't crazy for asking why he's been treated the way he has. So, his answer tries to take into account everyone's point of view without taking a strong stance that could hurt him. Let's also talk about the other thing that people noticed about Shedur's press conference. Shadur was polite and grateful when asked about President Donald Trump's praise of him on social media after the win. "I'm grateful that he took time out of his day to speak out and help." Shadur said that Trump had posted that Shedeur Sanders had great wins in his first game as a pro for Cleveland. "Great pair of jeans. I told you so." That last part is important because Trump was one of the loudest people who asked why Shadur fell to the 5th round of the draft when most analysts thought he should have gone higher. The fact that the President of the United States is getting involved in Shedur's career shows how big this story has gotten. This isn't just news about Cleveland sports anymore. This is national news that people who don't usually follow the Browns are paying attention to. And all of that attention makes it even harder for Kevin Stefanski to deal with this situation. If he keeps being vague and conditional about his support for Shadur, benches him after one bad game, or goes back to Dillon Gabriel at the first chance he gets, the backlash will be huge. There are a lot of people watching this situation closely, including Shadur fans, media personalities, former players, and even politicians. What is going on in Cleveland right now is a test case for how teams should develop young quarterbacks, especially those who come with a lot of pressure and attention. Shedeur Sanders is not like most 5th-round picks who can be quietly developed away from the public eye. His father is a Hall of Famer. He has a lot of people who follow him on social media. There are people all over the country who have been following his journey for years. People will look at and talk about every choice the Browns make about him. Kevin Stefanski needs to face the facts. Hedging and lukewarm support won't work. He needs to either fully commit to Shadur and build around him, or be honest that he doesn't think Shadur is the answer and move on. This middle ground approach, where Shadur has to keep proving himself and his coach doesn't give him much public support, is the worst of both worlds. I think Shadur is handling a very hard situation with a lot of maturity. He's still focused on football. He's not making a fuss, asking for trades, or complaining to the press. He's saying all the right things in public, and he probably works hard every day in practice to prove himself. He knows that the best way to stop all the rumors and arguments is to keep winning games and playing well. If he does that, Kevin Stefanski will have to fully commit to him at some point, because the other option would be crazy for the organization. But let's be honest about something. Shedeur having to defend his coach against sabotage claims is proof that there is a problem. In well-run organizations where the coach and quarterback get along well, those accusations never come up, because it's clear to everyone that the coach fully supports and believes in his quarterback. The Browns need to fix their communication and relationship problems because people think they are sabotaging each other, even if it's not true. Kevin Stefanski is mostly responsible for fixing that because he is the one in charge. He's the one in charge of coaching. He is in charge of the messages. He makes the choice about how to talk about his players in public. If people think he doesn't fully support Shadur, he needs to change that by what he says and does, not by having his 22-year-old rookie quarterback defend him in press conferences. Everyone involved is looking forward to the big game against San Francisco. The 49ers have a tough, experienced defense that will test Shadur in ways that the Raiders couldn't. This is where we'll really find out what the kid is like. If he plays well again and shows that the Raiders game wasn't a fluke, the pressure on Stefanski to fully commit will be too much. But if he has a hard time, if the game is hard and the stats are bad, that's when we'll know if Stefanski really wants to help Shadur grow or if he was just looking for a reason to go back to Dillon Gabriel. My guess is that Shadur will have some good and bad moments against San Francisco, which is normal for rookie quarterbacks going up against great defenses. However, he will show enough flashes of his talent and potential that anyone who is reasonable would agree that he should keep starting and improving. The question is whether Kevin Stefanski is being fair when he looks at Shedeur Sanders, or if his apparent doubt will make him make a choice that hurts the team. I think Shedur's press conference made it clear who he is. He acts older than he is. He knows enough about politics to answer tough questions without making things worse. He's sure of himself enough not to let the controversy around him bother him, and he's focused enough to keep his eyes on what's important, playing football and winning games. All of those are things you want in a quarterback for your franchise. If Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are smart, they'll see what they have in Shedeur Sanders and do everything they can to help him succeed instead of making things harder for him by creating problems and drama. For everyone involved in this situation, the next few weeks are going to be very important. A lot of things about Shedur's immediate future will depend on how well he plays on the field. Kevin Stefanski's handling of the quarterback situation will determine whether he has a job beyond this season. The Browns organization as a whole will also have to decide whether they want to be the kind of team that properly develops young talent or whether they want to keep making the same mistakes that have left them cycling through 42 starting quarterbacks since 1999. So, what do you think? Was Shedur's handling of this press conference correct? Is Kevin Stefanski really trying to hurt him? Or are his fans reading too much into things? And most importantly, what will happen if Shadur has trouble with San Francisco? Will Stefanski be patient and keep working with him? Or will he use it as an excuse to go back to Dillon Gabriel? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, because this story isn't over yet. We're going to cover every event, game, and twist in what has become the most interesting quarterback story in the NFL.